Features with Livingston and Tangela too, and our host Vincent Van Dahl, and he brings it to you. Creature Features and all creatures and all creatures, and the creature gonna get you tonight. You better not turn out your bedroom light. He'll grab your head and give it such a bite. You may even die, just from a fright. You ain't nothing gonna be, baby. You ain't nothing gonna be alright. 'Cause the creature gonna get you, baby. Don't get you tonight.
Years ago tonight, a rather unassuming chap took the helm of a brand new program on an independent television station in Northern California. With his yellow rocking chair, his side table adorned with a skull and candle, a large stogie, and a somewhat unfashionable business suit, he served the good denizens of the San Francisco Bay Area the first episode of a show that would become the epitome of the horror host genre. And tonight, we salute this giant amongst this peculiar form of entertainment. Welcome to Creature Features. I am your host, Vincent Van Dahl. With me is the major domo of my unmanageable estate, Mr. Livingston, and to the side would be my young ward, creepy foster child, and dependent charge, the lovely Miss Tangela. Tonight, we honor the legendary Bob Wilkins, the creator of this very program and the iconic host of all things horror. We'll watch clips from his incarnation of Creature Features, and we'll be joined by his successor, Mr. John Stanley, who picked up the reins when Bob retired to go do other things.
Isn't it about time that you retire to go do other things?
Shush. We'll also be joined by our very own director, Tom Wersch, who will sit in with us as well. These two blokes both knew Bob Wilkins quite well and will have much to say about his years as the host of Creature Features. No, love, I don't think they'll be interested in joining you in the courtyard to watch you guillotine stuff. And in honor of the 50th anniversary of the show, we'll be showing the same film Bob showed those many years ago, namely The Horror of Party Beach.
That film is quite bad.
Actually, it's considered one of the worst films ever made, so I have no doubt that'll actually be quite good, Mr. Livingston. So let's get right to it, and don't you dare go away, because it's going to be a golden anniversary night of bikini-clad fright right here on Creature Features. Stay tuned.
Portions of this program are brought to you by Micromat, making products that keep your Macintosh running at its best.
Welcome to Channel 2's version of Saturday Night Fever. And tonight, there will be a creature, get someone, because we've got a movie about devil worshippers. They're nasty people. When they want somebody, they really go after them. This is a low-budget film, like, you know, that's sort of repetitive with tonight's, the title of the show, Creature Features. But this was a low-budget film, I'm sure a first effort, and it has a lot of Texas written all over it, shot down the border there. And what I want you to do tonight is sort of stick with this film like it was yours. It was your first effort, okay? And you can tune it off, tune out of it, whenever you think that you could have done a better job, all right?
And that was the famous Bob Wilkins doing his famous intro, but we are now with the famous John Stanley and Tom Wersch. Welcome to Creature Features. It's going to be a fun night. It's the 50th anniversary of the show.
Incredible.
You don't look a day over 50.
I was just going to say, incredible. 50 years have gone by.
50 years.
And I still remember that night that Bob first appeared on Channel 2 vividly. It's been in my imagination all these years.
So what was the reaction to the first episode of Creature Features in the San Francisco Bay Area?
Everyone was wondering, how is it possible that they could put Bob Wilkins in prime time, not after the news at 11:30 at night,
Right.
and expect him with a movie like Horror of Party Beach to have any kind of rating? Well, it was one of Channel 2's wisest moves, because Bob's rating often beat the other channels.
Even from the beginning?
Even from the very beginning, yes.
So Tom, we're joined by our director Tom Wersch as well. Do you remember the first episode? Did you see it?
You know, actually, I think it was a couple weeks after he had already started that I started watching it. But yeah, no, I had heard about it immediately and started watching the show every Saturday night.
So you learned just by random, or did somebody say you have to see the show?
Somebody said that there was a show on Channel 2 and that you should watch it. It's got a host and all that. And so I would say it's probably the third week. I didn't see the first one.
Right.
So.
Right. And sadly, there's no tape of that.
That's
right?
true.
No, Channel 2 never saved a single tape. They would play a show that had been put on a tape. The tape would go back to the film department, and it would be reused again for another program.
My goodness.
And of course, the original show would be erased.
Now, if they'd done this on film, it would have been saved, right?
On film, perhaps, yes.
videotape.
But this was all on tape.
Oh, my goodness. All right, we're going to watch Horror of Party Beach. This was the film first shown 50 years ago on Creature Features.
Prepare yourself for the worst.
It's that bad. You've seen it?
Oh, I have fallen asleep 6 times now.
6
because
times
of that
for
film.
this film.
Did you show it, John?
No, I never.
You never did,
Never did.
But he saw it.
I
He saw
scratched it off the list.
January 9th, 1971. You saw this film 50 years ago tonight. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and start the film. When we come back, we're going to chat with some more with these blokes and find out what's going on with Bob Wilkins and the show and how it came to be. You guys stay with us.
Lay off the booze, Tina. You've had enough.
Today, Tina and alcohol are going to have a great cocktail.
Look, you booze it all you want, but you better lay off me. You better stand on your feet, because if you fall on your face, I'm not going to pick you up. You understand?
When did you ever have to carry me home? I've always been able to stand on my own 2 feet. Look, I never needed you, and I never will. Say, what happened to the Campus Big Shot who'd do anything for kicks?
Campus Big Shot's growing up. Times have changed, Tina. We're not a bunch of kids anymore. I've got plans. You can do all the partying you want. You better stay out of my way.
Stop preaching. I know about your plans. Your experiments in that laboratory. Well, let me tell you something. I have a few experiments of my own I'm just itching to try. And they don't have one thing to do with test tubes and Bunsen burners.
Okay, Tina, if that's what you want.
Oh, Hank, what's happening to us?
So when are you gonna get it through your head that life isn't just all fun and games?
Okay, no more lectures. We're not even talking the same language anymore. All right, if that's the way you want it, then you just go on your way. And I'll go mine. We'll see who gets the most out of life. Oh, brother, you ain't seen living till you've seen Tina swim.
on the ignition for this expedition. Climb in, baby, oh my, oh wow, I sure feel.
Hey, that reminds me, did I bring my hot dog buns?
Gonna get some, we'll see how it feels to fly on down the road. Gonna get some, we'll see how it feels to fly on down the road. Make a left, make a right, now the cotton side, we'll fly on down the road. Let's fly. Fasten up your seatbelt. It'll be a treat now. 24. Make a left, make a right, now the cotton side, we'll fly on down the road. Let's do it. All right. Signal for a left turn. Oh my, here's a traffic circle. Gonna get some, we'll see how it feels to fly on down the road. Gonna get some, we'll see how it feels to fly on down the road. Make a left, make a right, on the cotton side, don't fly on down the road. Better slam the brakes on, for this little crate's gone. 80, 90, gosh almighty, how fast can we go? Wanna get some, we'll see how it feels to fly, fly, fly. Get some, we'll see how it feels to fly, fly, fly. Hang on tight, baby, it's alright, baby. Here we go, 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 go.
Johnny, I never let anyone kiss me like this before.
My name's not Johnny.
What is it?
Irving.
Irving? What's in the name?
Guests of the show stay at Hotel E on Courthouse Square in Santa Rosa.
A little bit later in the show, I'm going to tell you fans how you can get some free show tickets to a movie coming to the Bay Area. And Weird Woman will be our second feature, and it deals with witchcraft and things like that. And actually, someone sent in this little Bob Wilkins doll a couple weeks ago. See the pin in it there? I don't really believe in this stuff. I don't think it works. But I've sure been having a lot of heartburn lately. I wonder what it is.
And that was the legendary Bob Wilkins. So is this, I assume. And we are still watching Party at Horror Beach, Horror of Party Beach. You know, it should have been called Party of Horror Beach. And I'm with the wonderful John Stanley and Mr. Tom Wersch, our director. And this film, you know, they crashed nuclear material on the coast. You know, this happens here in Bodega Bay every day.
Really?
No, there's always like people out there in radiation suits digging something out of the water.
Wow.
There could be bodies, I don't know.
Is that how the birds came about?
You know, that could be. That's why the birds went crazy. Anyways, what do you got there, Tom?
Well, this is one of Bob's cigar boxes, and
one of his actual.
That's true. And the cigars, he always said he got the cheapest, biggest cigar that he could find, and that would be the House of Windsor.
House of Windsor. You know, I've driven by the actual House of Windsor, and they do not smoke those cigars.
Probably not.
And it's autographed. Look.
Yes, I was going to say this box is valuable.
It's autographed.
Yeah,
My
Bob
goodness.
signed it.
So why didn't you ever take up the whole cigar thing on your show?
I felt that Bob did it his way, and I had to do it my way.
That's a good point.
If I was ever going to be successful with it, I couldn't try to imitate somebody you're not.
And that's why you didn't use his chair either. I forgot to mention we have his actual chair with us.
Well,
here tonight.
none of the items that we associate with him became part of my set. We designed an entirely different.
Yours was like a dungeon.
A dungeon set,
Right.
yes. And we had a coffin that my guests would sit on. At least most of them did. Patrick Wayne, the son of John Wayne,
right,
when he was a guest on the show, his father had just died not too long before that. And he came, when he arrived, he looked at it and said, I don't really want to sit on the coffin, so we had to get a chair for him.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't sit on a coffin either. They're a bit slippery, right? Yeah. If the top breaks, you fall inside. You might die. So, Tom, when did you meet Bob?
Well, the first time I met him was at a Star Trek convention in 1975.
75?
1975.
So you were like 10, right?
Yeah, really. And maybe 12. And
13.
And then I met up with him in the late 90s. And that's when we did the Bob Wilkins scrapbook.
Right.
And then we started doing shows at the Parkway Theater in Oakland in the late 90s. And
actually, that was 2000.
Yeah.
October of 2000.
Wow.
So, and that's when everything really started again for the revival, I would say, of Creature Features.
Absolutely.
And that's a big story in and of itself. I'm going to signal we got to get back to the film. When we come back, we're going to hear all about those things, right?
We will.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Off we go back to the horror of Party Beach. Don't you dare go away. We got Tangela coming up for letters, so you want to stay for this.
Lane, kind of shook me up there. You always go around sneaking up on people?
Well, I saw you just staring out at the ocean, so I thought I'd come down and talk to you.
Hey, everybody, yeah! The business is going on.
Daddy thinks quite a bit of you, you know. Thinks you have a great future.
Working with Dr. Gavin has been just about the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, Elaine. But I still have this problem with Tina. It's always on my mind.
Oh, I'm sure Tina will come around to your way of thinking. She's bound to realize what she has in you, Hank.
Well, we'll see.
Just a wiggle and a wobble. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, baby, sit down. Just a wiggle and a wobble. Yeah. Oh, isn't anything like a shot, lady? Isn't anything like a do the Holy Ghost? Isn't anything like a master dealer? Wiggle wobble. Oh yeah. Wiggle wiggle. Wobble wobble. Wiggle 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 little little wobble.
Hey, what's going on up there?
I don't know. Let's go see.
Wiggle wobble.
What are you doing?
What do you think I'm doing?
She doesn't want to go with you. Look, I don't think that's any of your business.
Hank, I think that we should...
Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Let's get up.
There is a further, stepping closer, stepping closer. It's the living. Honey, I'm no Frankenstein. Oh yeah, baby, really, I feel fine. Oh, everybody do the zombie stomp. Just like you put down with an oven pump. Yeah, there is a further, stepping closer, stepping closer. It's the living. Zombies, spook it up the whole night Oh, everybody do the zombie stomp. Just like you put down with an oven pump. Here is a further, stepping closer, stepping closer. It's the living. Oh, everybody do the zombie stomp. The zombie stomp is fun to do. Come along and do the zombie too. Scoop it up the whole night through.
Do you believe that kissing is unhealthy?
I don't know. I've never been...
You've never been kissed?
No, I've never been sick.
Here is a further, stepping closer.
This portion of Creature Features is brought to you by CreatureFeatureStore.com, the official merchandiser of Creature Feature accessories.
Welcome back to the show. Tom and John will be back shortly, but in the meantime, they've been kicked out by Tangela because we need to do letters, right?
Right.
He loves doing letters.
Indeed.
No, he doesn't love doing letters, but he loves going to the mailbox, do you not?
Yes, it's one chance to get away.
Mail, please, sir.
Here's something from Wichita, Kansas.
Wichita, Kansas. Is it from Dorothy?
I think she went home.
From Dorothy and Toto. It looks like a company called, I cannot even pronounce this, but they're in Great Bend, Kansas. Okay. Handwritten note. You know, my ears are ringing. Oh, this has got to be the best writing I've ever seen. Penmanship. It's excellent. All right, and this is from our friend and viewer, Alan Sukup in Great Bend, Kansas, and he goes, Dear Polter Manor Gang, I recently found Creature Features on YouTube, and I love it. Well, we love you too. You guys really know how to rock and make heads roll. He doesn't know how to rock, but she certainly knows how to make heads roll. I've been trying to watch as many back episodes as possible. Vincent, you are an excellent host. Your laid-back style is fun and informative. Your guests always seem to have a good time, as do we viewers. Mr. Livingston, it is your perfect straight man. His dry sense of humor and delivery is always amusing. So are his dance moves with Tangela in some of your show's opening titles. You know, he does that reluctantly. If he does not do it at least once a month, then she will grow angry and steal his shoes. Speaking of Tangela, she's quite the devilish little imp. Well, she certainly is tonight, making a mess of my parlor. It is always a pleasure to see what creepy pet or weapon of mass destruction she will utilize on each episode. One question, have you ever shown the Peter Cushing film, The Island of Terror? It's great fun, and the creature in that film would make a most appropriate pet for Tangela. Now, you know, we've never shown that film, but maybe one day we will now that you've asked, because I'd never heard of it, and Mr. Livingston now has to go look it up, right?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Of course, perhaps.
An email.
He said nice things about you. It's
Yes.
going to be more than perhaps. All right, an email from Roger. He does not say where, but he put skulls and smiley faces on the letter. Yeah, you're gonna poke somebody's eyes out with that thing, if not your own.
And you're going to clean it up.
I doubt she will. All right. Hi, Vince Livingston and beautiful Tangela. My younger brother Ken and I reside in Vallejo, California. You know, for many years I called this Valley Joe. It's Vallejo. It's not Valley Joe.
Vallejo.
Ho, ho, ho. Christmas is over. When we were growing up, we used to stay up late Saturdays just to catch the new scary movie shown by the infamous Bob Wilkins as he smoked his trademark stogie. Could you please show Phantom of the Opera and Creature from the Black Lagoon? They were two of our favorites. Thanks for bringing Creature Features back, Roger. The first one, Phantom of the Opera, did we not show that once? No. We never shown that? Nor Creature from the Black Lagoon. Well, that's two more. You got to dig up Mr. Livingston.
I will make a note of it.
He's busy tonight. That's her way of doing mail call, I think. Every time I pull out a new note, she pops something. All right, this one's from Howard Fortner. Does not say where. He goes, Dear Creature Features host Vincent Livingston and Tangela, I look forward to every Saturday evening watching Creature Features. I recently found you on YouTube. You know, a lot of people are recently finding us on YouTube.
Recently finding.
No, we've been on YouTube for 5 years almost now, right? Why are people just now recently finding us on YouTube? You know, YouTube is like a bale of straw with a needle inside, and we're like a little microscopic dot on that needle. I don't even know how you guys are finding us, but I'm glad you are, Howard. All right, you know, you're definitely going to injure somebody with these things. It's, you know, she's acting like it's New Year. It's 50th anniversary. You should be drinking champagne. Hopefully he'll put her to sleep. All right, he goes on. Shout out to the live chat folks who post praise, puns, trivia, tributes, insights, insults, film quotes, and sidetrack discussions on now vintage vehicles seen in some of these old stinker films. Too much fun. He's talking about the people who chat when we show the premiere of our show on YouTube. You finally saw that happen, right?
Yes.
It's interesting, is it not?
Quite.
No, it's an entire community of people communicating as we run our bloody show. Imagine that. You know, you think they'd be doing it for like a wildlife film or something like that, but no, they do it for our show. And we love you, so don't you dare stop coming to our YouTube live thing. Let's see, he goes, P.S. One film recommendation, Alien Avengers, a 1996 American film directed by Lev Spiro, starring George Wendt. Wasn't he the bloke in Cheers? He was the mailman in Cheers.
I have no idea.
George Wendt. You know, that's almost a complete sentence.
Where did he go?
Exactly. All right. It was part of the Roger Corman Presents series. It was also known as Welcome to Planet Earth. We're going to look for that. No, Livingston's going to look for that, Howard, because he loves looking for films for our viewers.
I hear something from the Netherlands.
the Netherlands, the actual Netherlands.
You know, Holland.
Right. But it's from the nether region. Oh, look at this. It's contains CD and download card. Oh, this looks nice. Not too many people send us CDs. Jamie Callahan Groves. Oh, this is interesting. It's a nice cover. It looks like music. It is. He's a musician. You know, I don't hear from too many musicians. You know why? Because I wasn't a very good one. All right, let's find out what he says. All right, nothing else in there. And, oh, this is going to be a tough read, but I think I could pull it off. All right. This is from Jamie O. Callahan, right? Let me verify this. James O. Callahan, and he goes, Dear Vincent Tangelo, Mr. Livingston, hope all is well with you all. Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you for absolutely fantastic Creature Features show. It's a classic and reminds me of my childhood back in the UK in the early 70s. Oh, he's one of our type of blokes. Tally ho. Watching The Appointment with Fear horror fantasy series of old classics. These films introduced me to music of an orchestral nature. Although I was a singer in new wave bands in the late 70s. New wave in the late 70s was like a new thing. It was actually when new wave was new.
Hence the name.
No, but in the 80s they still called it new wave, and it was like old by then. It should have been called not so new wave. Anyways, I digress. However, horror films was where I got my love for film music. Alien, The Shining, Planet of the Apes, and so on. It was all due to shows such as yours. Your format makes me and many others very happy for sure. Here is a gift of my orchestral tone poem. Also, a shameless promotion of my music. Listen to it to chill out with. Imagine a prehistoric world, strange alien worlds, ancient fantasy worlds, music to an unwritten film. All my very best wishes, Jamie O. Callahan. Well, thank you so much for writing to us, and I will give this a listen, and, you know, maybe we could play it quite loud. We'll turn it up to 11. Right? My goodness. All right. That's it?
That's it?
No more letters. All right. If you would like to send us a letter yourself by email, use the address that you see appearing here. Or if you'd like to send something in the post, like a CD of your music, send it to the address you see here. We'll be right back with John and Tom soon, but first let's get back to the horror of Party Beach.
What good is a man? What good is a man? Without a woman? And what good am I?
Hiya, Charlie. Do you like bathing beauty?
I don't know. I never bathed one.
Well, what happened to her? Didn't run or something? That's why we called you, sir.
It was no accident. She was found that way. At Painter's Point. Some kids were having a party. She wandered off. 10 minutes later, she was dead.
Mm-hmm. The papers have it?
The Daily Herald has wind of it. There's a reporter out there now, muttering about sea monsters, that sort of thing.
Any statements?
Our men question everyone at the party. They all give the same story. They think something came out of the sea.
Ridiculous. That's what I thought, Lieutenant.
Whoever did this couldn't have come over by land. Must have come from the sea.
Maybe a wild shark or something.
Any blood smears?
We're running the standard tests.
Gavin. Dr. Gavin. Get him to work on this.
Morning. Nice morning. Looks like a clear day.
I was just looking at that little cloud up there by the sun and thinking it might rain. I guess everybody interprets the world according to his own mood.
Well, no weather is good for a funeral. In my business, I try to avoid them.
Elaine, it's 9:30. I guess she'd be abnormal if she were on time.
How's she taking it?
It's not easy for any of us. A lot of families have been affected by this. Helps her to know she's not alone.
Here's the sample that you asked for.
I'm going to run some carbon-14 tests on this tissue. There have been some recent discoveries in the field of genetics that may give us a clue to its structure.
Good luck, Doc.
Thanks. Bye. Oh, you're ready. You do understand why I'm not going, don't you, dear?
Of course, Daddy. Everybody knows how hard you've been working.
You gonna pick up Hank on the way?
Yes. Daddy, I'm so upset about Hank. Here I am going to Tina's funeral, and I have such feelings about him.
What kind of feelings?
I don't know.
Is it because he's free now?
Yes. I suppose so.
You go ahead, dear. I'll get to work.
It's a human thing, Dr. Gavin. It's a human evil thing lurking and creeping and crawling around out there in the night. I know it. I feel it.
You mustn't talk like that. A great deal of the ocean is still a mystery to us. There are undoubtedly forms of life that we know nothing about.
It's the voodoo, that's what it is.
Now, that's ridiculous, Eula Bell. I want you to get this idea of voodoo out of your head. I have no doubt we'll find a perfectly reasonable explanation for the girl's death.
Maybe you're right. But the police have been looking and they haven't found anything. They've been running around here like headless chickens. And you've been looking and reading, and what have you found?
Nothing is solved in a few hours. This will require a lot of research.
And while you are researching, there's something creeping and crawling and lurking around out there?
That's enough.
It's the voodoo, that's what it is.
You'd better go to bed, Eula Bell. Did you lock up?
Lock, double lock, and triple lock. Ain't no monsters gonna get in here tonight. It's the voodoo, all right.
Hi, Daddy.
Hello, dear. I thought you were going out tonight.
Oh, I was, but it's just another slumber party. They're all the same, so I'm not really missing anything.
Did you let him know you weren't coming?
No.
Don't you think you should?
Oh, Daddy, I just don't see how you can even think of such a thing after what happened to Tina.
Tina's death has affected a great many people, but it doesn't give you or anyone else the right to be discourteous.
Oh, all right. I'll go telephone.
Okay.
Hello. It's for Libby.
Libby, it's for you. Hi. Hi, Elaine. Where are you? Why? Oh, Elaine, you're going to miss all the fun. Oh, Elaine, we've got secret information that the boys from the Kai Sai house are going to crash. We've got a big bucket rigged up over the door. I can't wait to see Ricky Aldrich as he comes to the door and gets it spilled on him. Oh, Elaine, please come. It'll be so much fun. Well, okay. All right. I understand. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Libby. I'm glad I called, Daddy. It was the right thing to do.
Oh, sad is the fortune of all womankind. They're always controlled, they're always confined, controlled by their parents until they are wives and slaves to their husbands. For the rest of their I've always been courted by the wagoner's lad. He courted me daily, by night and by day. And now he is loading and going away.
Come on. What are they doing?
I smell something awful.
Smells like dead fish.
Ooh, I hope they don't throw fish again.
Like they did last year.
Quiet, girls. Everybody keep quiet. I'll turn off the lights.
Okay, boys. The door's open.
Portions of Creature Features are brought to you by the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. Explore the mystery at winchestermysteryhouse.com.
Welcome back to Creature Features. We're still watching the Horror Party Beach with the famous John Stanley and the almost as famous Tom Welsh, all director. You know, he doesn't get to sit in front of the camera as much as we'd like him to, but he does it every now and then. I'm sorry, apologies, she made a mess. Tangella, I don't know if you caught that last segment, but she had papas. No, she said celebrate, so she saw the sign and decided to do it. All right, so this movie, Horror at Potty Beach, it was one of Stephen King's favorite films.
That's true.
Stephen King?
Stephen King, of all people.
Yeah.
My
the
gosh.
author, right. And you were telling me during the break that there was a comic book or something made on this film.
Yeah, Warren Publishing that did Famous Monsters of Filmland actually came out with a magazine the same size as Famous Monsters that was a comic of the film. Yeah, that's true.
Why this film?
They just picked it as, asked them if they wanted to do it, and they did it. And it's actually a very popular magazine, and trying to get a hold of a copy of it. Yeah, very popular.
Right,
yeah,
right. Interesting.
Yeah, I wrote several stories for that magazine.
Famous Monsters?
Along the way, yes.
Oh, you did? I never knew that.
Yeah.
We had the recent publisher, Phil Kim,
right,
on the program some time back, and he told us all about that. All right, well, we're here to talk about Bob Wilkins. How did Bob Wilkins get involved in all this stuff?
Well, you know, Bob Wilkins came to California and went to work for KCRA TV Channel 3 in Sacramento, and he was doing advertising and for the Auto Row and different advertising needs in Sacramento. And they had a library of 16 millimeter horror films that they basically said were collecting dust. They weren't showing them. So the two brothers, the Kelly brothers, asked Bob if he was interested in hosting a show that would highlight the films. And
Yeah, Bob had become very popular at the station
In
for
Sacramento.
hosting special events.
Right.
Yeah, he had
Right.
a sense of humor about it. So
Right.
that's why they picked him to
That's
do it.
right, yeah. So they had the group of films, and they put it on, and the first night, the movie was so bad, it was Attack of the Mushroom People, which is a Japanese film, and it was dubbed. And he knew the movie was bad, and he didn't know how the show was going to go, so he actually had a copy of TV Guide. Not this TV Guide, but he had a copy of TV Guide. And he actually went through it telling people what was on the other channels.
Oh my
So
goodness.
and of course, the next Monday, the Auto Row people, the advertising people were horrified. They called the station. It's like, you know, it's great that you're putting your kid on there to host these movies, but, you know, does he have to tell them to go watch the other stations? Well, everybody loved that. The viewers just loved the whole, you know, the whole thing about it. And so they basically called in, and he kept going, and it became super popular. And then I believe that Tom Breen, who worked for Channel 3, John went to KTVU.
Yeah, he got a job at Channel 2, and after he was there for a short time, he got to thinking about, wait a minute, Bob was doing very well with that horror show on Saturday nights. What would happen if I brought him to KTVU, but instead of putting him on at 11:30, let's put him on in prime time opposite NBC Saturday Night at the Movies.
Right.
And it worked out very well. Bob did
So that would have been
excellently.
9 p.m., right?
9 p.m.
Same as us now.
Yeah,
See?
that's right.
Good things happen at 9
Yeah.
p.m. All right, I'm getting the signal. We're going to get back to the film, but when we come back, you two are going to tell me more trivia about Bob Wilkins, right?
We will.
Love
All
to.
right,
Yeah.
good.
Love to.
Back to the horror of Potty Beach. We'll be back shortly. Don't you dare go away, please.
Rumors of an invasion from the sea took on a new dimension last night when over 20 teenage girls were brutally attacked and murdered during a slumber party. A survivor described these monsters differently from those which terrorized the beach only a few days ago. But Dr. Gavin, special consultant for the police, suggested that these beings probably have different forms in the same way that human beings vary in size and shape. Meanwhile, specialists from all over the United States converged on our city in an attempt to piece together the scattered reports of attacks in a massive effort to find out the identity of these strange creatures from the sea.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, we better skip this town. This is the place where they're having all the trouble. Cops? No, murders by the hundreds. Some kind of monsters killing people and drinking their blood. Ooh, it gives me the creeps. Imagine being that thirsty.
Oh, very funny, Miss Gould.
I read all about it in the papers. This town's too hot for my blood. Well, you know what I mean. Listen, girls, I need some gas. We better stop and we'll get some directions, too.
Yes, ma'am. Can I help you?
He's cute, isn't he? Fill me up, huh?
Sure.
Say, what's this I hear about all these murders you've been having around here?
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal. They got a big investigation going on. They got guys coming up here from Washington and everything.
Hey, we better get out of here, girls.
You aren't kidding.
Hey, handsome, what's the fastest way to get to New York?
Well, I guess the best way is to go down here to Wire Mill Road, and you turn left and go 2 blocks over, and then you turn right and you go past the quarry, and you'll see the thruway right on the other side. You can't miss it.
Thanks. How much do I owe you?
That's $4, please.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
Turn left, turn left. Look at this route. I can look stupid. I'm driving. You want to crack us up? No, New York or bust.
Oh, yeah?
This is a road? Oh, great, a flat tire.
Now what do we do? Hey, where you been? Flo needs help with the wheel.
Down by that quarry. Something must have died in there. It smells like the Fulton Fish Market in the middle of July. How's it going, hon? Well, I got it off, but I can't see nothing. How about some help? Okay.
Hey, hold it, you two.
What's with you?
I heard something.
Oh, if it ain't money rustling, it ain't worth hearing. Shh. Hold it, I hear something too.
Sounds like somebody big walking in mud.
You two flipped your wigs or something?
Hi, this is James from Denver, Colorado. I love your show. Love all three of you guys. Svengoolie doesn't hold a candle to you guys. You guys are the greatest. Guys remind me of my ex-in-laws. Love them too. Have a good day.
Portions of Creature Features are brought to you by the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. Explore the mystery at winchestermysteryhouse.com.
I remember when he moved to Channel 2 and I started working with him, the camera guys would start to laugh. And there was no studio audience or anything, you know. And I would laugh when I was in the studio. And the station people said, "You can't have people laughing. Cut, you know, we gotta take this over." And Bob went, "No, just let them laugh, you know, whatever." So there was this background of like 3 people laughing, the crew, and you realized this is just something we're putting on the air for fun. Join in with us. We're not professionals in any way, shape, or form. And that's what's beautiful about what Bob did.
My goodness. Yeah. I need to send her to finishing school or something. I mean, she's just destroying my home and my hair.
Something strange is coming out of your brain.
No, what's coming out of my brain is the fact that we just saw a clip of Bob Shaw. What was he? He was Bob Wilkins' producer, editor.
Yeah.
What did he do?
Yeah. You know what the opening that we have here on Creature Features,
Right.
Which is basically a new cut of what Bob had as an opening.
An updated homage.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, Bob Shaw edited the first
original
Oh, he
clips
did.
that
He
you
was
saw.
the one who chose the clips. And
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Bob Shaw actually managed a movie theater, and he saw Bob Wilkins' show, came over, introduced himself, and Bob kept him on because he was an expert about sci-fi and horror movies.
As he would be, owning or operating a theater, right?
Yes.
And I assumed that Bob Shaw was already associated with the station. He came after Bob Wilkins.
Well, Bob, because he was helping Bob Wilkins with the show, eventually got a job at Channel 2 in the film editing department.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And then in 1982, when I was doing the show, they were looking for a new film critic
Right.
for the news department, and they picked Bob Shaw. Bob tried out for it. He was an expert on film, and that he was the movie critic for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 years.
He went on
absolutely,
to do quite a few interviews, right, with famous.
He did.
Yes, he
Right.
did. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to actually throw in information for Bob or correct him when he was maybe saying the wrong name of a movie.
So, Bob was the version of you on the show.
Similar, yeah.
Right?
That's
no,
true.
he does the same thing. He goes, no, you know, that movie did not receive an Academy Award. In fact, it received no awards at all.
That's right. That's right.
I'd like to tell you a little story about Bob Shaw. When I started hosting the show, he came up to me and he said, "John, I would like to be an assistant producer for you." And I said, "That would be fine." Well, when the station found out about it, the head of the editing department said, "You are going to have nothing to do with Creature Features. You work for me in the editing department." And poor Bob was not able to fulfill that role. They would not let him do it.
That's terrible. Did you put your foot down and threaten to quit?
Did I?
Yes.
No, I.
In hindsight, I bet you wish you did.
Well, it was just one of those decisions.
Well, you were new there at the time, so you weren't in a position yet to.
No, I was.
To elbow
I'd only
anybody.
been there a few weeks.
Right, right. All right. Well, All right, well, I'm getting the signal. We got to get back to the film, and when we come back, we're gonna hear some more about the old creature features and how it became the new creature features, right? All right, off we go back to the horror of Party Beach from 1964. Don't you dare go away. Bye.
I've had my share of the misery too, Miss Elaine, and I know what it is. 3 brothers and 2 sisters, all dead and gone. But you don't see me going around moaning and groaning all day. I have my work, and the Lord has his, and he takes care of us wherever we are.
Why, what's this, Eulabelle?
Oh, that's mine. Give it to me.
It's a voodoo doll, isn't it? You really believe in it.
Now, don't you go teasing, Miss Elaine. I know a lot more things than I say.
Eulabelle, there's no such thing as voodoo. Who is it, anyway?
One of them zombies. Dr. Gavin was so worried, I thought I could help. Well, somebody's got to do something. Hello, Mr. Hank. Come in.
Hello, Eulabelle.
He's that nice young boy just pining to take you out. Now, quit your moaning and groaning and go out and have some fun.
Father didn't need me this afternoon, Elaine. Well, I thought maybe you'd like to go for a drive or something.
Oh, I don't know, Hank.
Now, go on upstairs and change. He'll wait.
Look, I don't mind waiting. You go ahead and change.
All right. Why did you come back to the beach, Hank?
I don't know, Elaine. I had a funny feeling about this place. Come on, let's go.
Hey, man, what's happening?
How you doing, gang? Pretty dead tonight, huh, Ron?
Yeah, ever since Tina got killed, like, no action around here.
Yeah, well, it'll pick up.
Take it easy.
Ron, what are you going to play?
What'd you like to hear, Elaine?
How about, You're Not a Summer Love?
Just for you, baby.
Hi. Excuse me, Hank.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll be true to you. say forever that you will be endlessly close to me, like the sand in the sea. I'm not a summer love. I'll be true, I'll be true to you forever. Oh, my darling, tell me you'll be mine forever. Summer love, summer love, you'll leave me there. Summer love, summer love, you'll leave.
Good night, girls. Now you go straight home.
My brother's coming to pick us up.
Good night now.
Good night, Johnny. He's not coming. Let's walk.
No, I think Lolita dressed very badly. No, I think that pink would be well for her, but it's not always the best color. Not which I love to think about, but what can you do? No, I like him, but he's not the greatest thing in the world. No, well, he's not. Yeah, my mother took him. Well, I know a guy who did that, but it didn't do any good at all. Got a cat? And then they adopted a child, and it was much easier.
Come on, girls.
Guests of the show stay at Hotel E on Courthouse Square in Santa Rosa. Portions of this program are brought to you by Micromat, making products that keep your Macintosh running at its best.
Still alive.
I want to make some notes.
Yes, sir.
April 10th, 7 p.m. Notes on possible malignant organism. Overall configuration, that of a human arm, severed just below the elbow joint. Muscle tissue seems to be a sea anemone, species of protozoa. These organs are exactly like human organs, except that they have been replaced by the protozoans. Of course, this creature needs the ordinary necessities of human life: proteins, fats, sugars, and so forth. But since his organs are so decomposed that they can neither produce nor retain the oxygen necessary for its survival, it needs the only food which can keep it alive.
Blood? Human blood.
If a human body, a drowned person, were attacked by tiny sea plants which became parasites and completely dead? No, it's still alive. But it's changed into Well, is it a plant or an animal?
It's both.
It's a giant protozoa.
Dr. Gavin, can they be killed?
I don't know, Lieutenant.
They are the living dead. They're zombies.
Nothing so dramatic as that, Elaine. They're more like a jellyfish. You can't kill them by shooting them or cutting them up.
Well, then how can you kill them?
I hear something. There's something out there. I know there is.
All right, now, everybody, just keep calm and be quiet.
The gun won't help them. Here, take these knives. They're all we have. Elaine, over there in that corner. Lieutenant, when I say lights, turn them on. I'll take care of this one. Lights! Eula Bell.
Oh, well, what all of you doing sneaking and peeking in the dark?
I'm afraid you gave us quite a scare.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gavin. But it's so quiet up there in the house. And I get scared by myself all alone at night. And them zombies, they're coming at me tonight. I just know they will.
Look, it's burning up. Eula Bell, you've killed it.
Oh, Dr. Gavin, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No, don't be sorry. This is wonderful. You've discovered a way to destroy these creatures.
Oh, Lord, Lord.
Look, completely dehydrated. Protozoans are almost all water. This is all we have left.
But what makes all the smoke and steam, Daddy?
Sodium. Plain old sodium. Hank, you remember your chemistry. Sodium is a very unstable metal that reacts violently with water.
That's right. Then they can be killed with sodium.
They can, if we can find them.
Same to you, fella. What about that guy, huh? We are unwanted, outcasts, orphans of the storm. What storm? The storm of my soul. Right. Where do we go now?
We'll drive. Are you capable of driving?
Of course I'm capable. Are you capable?
Of course I am.
Where's the car?
That away.
I'll get my car. You wait here, I'll get my car. Guess we weren't capable. Oh, come on. Let's walk.
Hey, lead the way!
Whee! Hey, what's that sound?
That's you.
No, it's you. Let's hear you walk. No, it's not you.
Now you walk. That's not you either. Hey. What's it sound like?
It sounds like somebody in rubbers filled with water. You wearing rubbers? No. Me neither.
That's probably somebody came from the swimming pool and came from swimming with their suits and shots on.
That's not so funny. That's probably some old drunk. God, I hate drunk.
Hey, Sam, look.
Yeah.
Truck. Hey. They left their lights on.
Yeah. Well,
We better go turn them off.
yeah, save his battery, for heaven's sake.
Hey, Stan, there's a guy in here. Hey, buddy. What are you doing? You sleeping? Huh? Oh, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, Stan, this guy ain't got no face. Hey, Stan. Hey, Stan, where are you? Hey, Stan.
Stan, don't play these games on me.
Like this.
Because of this recent discovery, the police now feel certain that in a very short time, a method will be found to locate and destroy these frightful monsters.
Extra, read all about it.
This portion of Creature Features is brought to you by CreatureFeatureStore.com, the official merchandiser of Creature Feature accessories.
The Creature might get you tonight because what promises to be the best, we had a package of 4 films, remember 2 last week and 1 last night, 4 first-time movies for this show. Premieres, blockbusting titles like Blood Mania, Creeping Terror, Spaceship from Venus, first spaceship on Venus, and tonight, Curse of the Bigfoot. So far, we're batting 3 out of the 4 have been dogs. Tonight's our only hope to salvage this thing.
And that was Bob Wilkins opening one of his shows. He used to do that every week, just like us, right?
That's right.
It's amazing. No, you know, his set, that was a set, right? That was not his home.
That was a set.
That was nice. No, you know, I think I should employ a
What's
rocking chair as well, maybe one day.
And they used to actually have to put the set away after they filmed the show to bring in other sets.
Oh, it's a breakaway type
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, Channel 2 recorded many in-studio shows in those days.
They needed the space. Can you imagine if we had to fold up these walls?
Wow.
It would take a very large crew to fold up all sets. So the return of Creature Features, or I should say the revival, was
Right.
orchestrated by you and Scott Moon, right?
Yeah, Bob had was requested to come down and do a return to Oakland at the Parkway Theater.
Right.
And he asked me to go down and see if it was something he should do. And he had really not done much prior to that other than a show with Scott Moon at Harlow's, I think it was.
In Sacramento.
In Sacramento.
There were 2 shows in Sacramento.
But, you know, coming back to Oakland and the Bay Area was a different thing. So I went and checked it out and said, yeah, I think you should do it, Bob. And he did, and it was huge. I mean,
Well, Will the Thrill put on special shows at the Parkway in Oakland
Right.
with his wife Monica. So they were 2 very distinguished personalities, and they wanted us to, Bob and I, to come up on stage, and Bob Shaw was there also.
Wow.
And then the place was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in the theater that night.
It was a popular program, so there was lots of fans who wanted to get some more.
And we did a show there at least once a year.
So that
for
became
5
an
years.
ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Bob wasn't really sure he wanted to do it, but I think it was like 2 days after the show, he called me up and said, can we do more? And of course,
Because he had so much fun.
Yeah, so I just went on the internet and looked at the different conventions that were going on.
The
and-
WonderCon.
Yeah, and I found
Tom,
the
that
WonderCon and
was
told
it.
them who Bob was and John, and we actually, you know, between Bob, John, and I, we've done well over 100 shows and
Oh my goodness.
conventions
And what
through
was
the years.
wonderful was the people that surrounded us.
Right.
We had other horror hosts,
Mhm.
Mr. Lobo. What was the name of the lady?
Elvira?
Elvira came to some of the
Right.
shows, yes.
And you know, and that's really what led into my first documentary film, Watch Horror Films Keep America Strong, was I saw people come to the table and ask questions about how the show got started, why the cigar, the rocker, and everything. And one of the times Bob and I were sitting at the table at WonderCon, and I said to Bob that, you know, somebody should really make a documentary telling the story of Creature Features. He looked at me and says, well, why don't you do it? And I said, well, I'm not really a filmmaker. And he says, become one. And that's really what led to my very first documentary, which
And
is
you
about
did
the
quite
show.
a few after this.
Tom
done
made
10.
8 or 10 of the
Yeah, I've
documentaries.
done 10, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the most popular being the San Francisco historical documentaries.
Like the Playland.
Playland at the
Right.
beach, yeah.
Sutro
you
baths,
know,
yeah.
Which I never really knew that I was going to get into because, you know, it was a one-time thing doing the Watch Horror Films for
Right.
me. And so, yeah, that was
people
10
like
years,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, we did a series of shows at the Castro Theater.
Right.
Where Bob Johnson was the producer,
Mhm.
and he would bring in film actors and play their films at the Castro Theater.
Oh, nice.
We did The Creature from the Black Lagoon with Julie Adams as one of the stars
wow.
with us, yes.
You know, we've only been able to do that once with Carnival of Souls and Candice Hilligos. It's tough to match up a film with an actor, so I understand. Anyways, I'm going to signal we got to get back to horror at Party Beach, but when we come back, we're going to learn some more, right? Right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
You
All right.
got it.
Off we go. We're going to
You
finish
got
up Horror at Party Beach. Don't you dare go away because we're going to be back. See you soon.
Dr. Gavin, look.
Scale 15.
The water from that arm is radioactive.
That means the cells themselves are radiated. But how?
The floating pig.
The what?
Oh, the floating pig. That's what we call the garbage scow that leaves the harbor every week. You see, it's been dumping waste material from the reactor at the university.
Do you know where they dump?
See, a friend of mine said he saw them once out at Western Island, I believe.
Western Island. Western Island. Here it is. Look at these currents, Hank. If one of those containers sprung a leak, the waste would be drawn right by our shore. And that's where Tina was killed that first night. Western Island is also where that fishing boat went down just a few weeks ago. These creatures are human bodies kept alive by radioactive decay.
So wherever they go, they leave radioactive water. So all we have to do is to test the water to know where they've been.
Right, and we can tell where they are. At this minute, wherever they are, they're building up a small and harmless radioactive residue in the surrounding water. Our Geiger counters will give a scale 15 reaction to that water. So
what we have to do is just test all the water in the immediate area. And if they're in one of those lakes, well, we'll get a scale reading from the counter, right?
Right. I'll call the police. We'll organize and get all the people in the countryside to help us. Then all we have to do is find them, and sodium will kill them.
All right, Dr. Gavin. Say, Dr. Gavin, we don't know how many there are. We might need tons of it.
You get on the phone and call every chemical supply company in the area. Someone must carry sodium in large quantities. I'll call Lieutenant Wells and get this thing started. If we're quick, we may stop these monsters before another night of killing.
Right, Dr. Gavin.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Now, these are instructions and map coordinates. You're to break up into separate teams. Each team is to organize a search in that specific area. There are a limited number of Geiger counters, but more are being brought up from New York, so don't worry about it. You'll have them by the end of the afternoon. I want you to find every single body of water in your area and be sure it's tested. You've got to be sure that those things haven't been there. Let's get going.
How's it going, Mr. Hank?
Oh, it's no use, Shulabel. Nobody has any sodium. They all get their supply on special order from New York City.
Did you try everybody in the telephone book?
Yeah, almost, all but a couple.
Well, you try that couple. You got to try, Mr. Hank. Well, go on.
All right, Shulabel. I'll call New York City. Hello, operator. Would you please get the Manhattan Chemical Supply Company in New York City? That's right. Hello. Listen, do you carry any sodium? That's right, the metal. You do? Well, listen, do you have a lot of it? Well, will you hang on to it for me? Hank Green. Yeah, that's right. All right, I'll be there in about an hour.
afternoon, Dr. Galen. Saw you coming, so I brought you some coffee.
Oh, good, thank you.
Any luck with your water testing, Dr. Galen?
Absolutely no luck. I must have tested at least 10 places and didn't find a thing.
Well, Mr. Hank found that chemical, what you call it.
Oh, good.
And he's gone off to New York to get it. But he won't get back before dark.
And Elaine? Where's Elaine?
Well, she's gone off too, Dr. Gavin. I think she mentioned Fingal's Quarry.
Fingal's Quarry?
Yes, sir.
Good God, why didn't I think of that before? That's the deepest body of water around here, and it's right where those 3 girls were killed.
Oh.
When Hank gets here, tell him I've gone to Fingal's Quarry.
Yes, sir.
And call the police and tell them to meet me there.
Yes, sir.
Coming east on Route 104 in gray MG and proceed to Fingal's Quarry. Over.
Will do immediately.
Hairstyling for the show was provided by Restoration Hair in Santa Rosa.
Follow me.
come in.
Hello, Eula Bell. Say, is Miss Elaine receiving today?
I think she's asleep. Let's check.
All right.
We interrupt this program of Burning Melodies to bring you a special bulletin. Late last night, our police force, with the assistance of Dr. Richard Gavin, located the hiding place of the monsters from the sea. Local officials assured all citizens that the invasion of the sea zombies is over. We return you now to Morning Melody.
Hank.
Hello, darling. How's the leg?
Oh, it's much better.
I just saw your father, and he's been burned badly, but he'll be fine. And he'll be back from the hospital within a week.
Oh, thank God. Oh, Hank.
What good is a man? What good is a man without a woman? And what good am I if I don't have you? Love me true. I don't wanna be lonely. I don't wanna be blue. But I can't help it if I don't have you. That's my baby's name. I don't know if she loves me, but I love her just the same. What good would the stars be without a heaven? And what good am I? Love me true. That's my baby.
And that is the end of the horror at Party Beach. Why is it that they're always killing these monsters with radioactive isotopes and minerals? And
It's very fast.
oh, you know, they don't do that anymore, thank goodness. Oh, you know, it wasn't a bad movie. I mean, I didn't think it was too bad. What do you think, love? Yeah, she likes movies that have monsters. And you know, sometimes I see a little tear appear in her eye when they die at the end.
Ah.
But you know, if
how
they need a
sad.
bomb, all they have to do is ring her because she can. Yeah, like the mess she made in my parlor. You are going to clean this up afterwards. Poor Livingston. All right, well, that was fun. But what are you blokes doing next? I know what you're doing next. You're directing our show.
That's true.
You've got the night
That's
off
true.
tonight. What about you, John? What do you got going on next?
Well, I have a book. I have a subtle title for it: "The Career That Dripped with Horror."
The career which dripped with horror.
And it's going to tell the story of how Bob Wilkins and I came back together in 2000 with Tom at our side. And I'm trying to get photographs of all the people who participated with us,
Oh, how
other
wonderful.
horror hosts,
Right.
close friends.
Aren't most of them in jail, John?
What's that?
Aren't most of them in jail?
San Quentin, actually.
You know, we have a few viewers at San Quentin who watch all.
Oh, I had so many interviews that did not run in my first book. I
Right.
was a horror host, that I just realized I've got to get these stories, these exclusive, one-of-a-kind stories, signed photographs. I really want to retell what it was like to be a horror host and
Oh,
a
wonderful.
newspaper man, too.
Right, right.
It's a mixture of the work I did for the San Francisco Chronicle and at Channel 2.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. And what about you, Tom? Any new documentaries or anything in the works?
I just finished redoing one of my older documentaries about the Houdini seances.
Oh, that was a good one. And what did you do? Did you like remaster it?
I did, and added new stuff to it, and
Nice.
it's actually up on my website.
Which is?
GarfieldLaneProductions.com.
GarfieldLaneProductions.com. And where do we learn about your books?
Well, it's still in the works. It'll be a while before it's out.
Right. But you have a website, right?
Yes. StanleyBooks.com. .net, I'm sorry, .net.
StanleyBooks.net. And then you can order this, you could pre-order this book maybe? Not
Well,
yet?
not quite yet.
He's got to establish
still
the
in the
pricing.
early-
You
still
don't
in
even
the
know how
early
many pages it's going to be yet, do you?
Oh, around 200 probably.
200 pages.
We have about 80 done so far.
Oh, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Well, get
yeah.
to work, lad. Get to work.
I'm going to keep
I
at
want
it.
to read your latest tome. All right. Well, thank you both for so much for. I'm not going to thank you because you're always here.
That's
so
true.
thank you for not directing tonight and
Okay.
actually sitting in front of the camera.
Okay.
And thank you, John, for making the trip all the way up to come see us. And we hope you'll stick around with us tonight and have some fun. And as far as you guys go, thank you so much for watching the show. We absolutely appreciate you watching, don't we? I mean, it would not be the same show if they did not watch it, right? So we all appreciate you. Angela appreciates you too, even though she's sitting in Bob Morgan's chair. And we will see you next week. Different movie, different guests. Don't know who, don't know what, but it will be fun. And before we go, we're going to let Bob Wilkins close this one out. See you next time.
Well, that's it. I told you it was rotten. If there's a worse film than that around, I want to see it, okay? Next week, The Walking Dead with Boris Karloff, Edmund Gwynn, and we'll have Equinox for you. And we'll have Flash Gordon chapter number 2, okay? So, take it easy. My name's Frank Nitti. Hope you had a nice Valentine's Day. Good night.